What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and today I have a Marincess deck profile. Now, I know right now fire decks are the thing to beat, so what better to beat a fire deck than a water deck? This is a deck that I haven't visited in a little bit, and so I figured I would put a list together and just see how it works. And the deck works very well. I feel like it can play through a fair amount of disruption fairly easily as well. So, with that note, let me pause the recording so I can zoom in, but not until after I show off the brand new playmat that is for the channel. My zone placement is kind of funky a lot of the time, so I figured I would get a new playmat with zones. So anytime I do test hands from now on, I'm going to have a mat with zones. And I hope you guys like that it's Blue Eyes White Dragon. And with that, like I said, let me pause so I can zoom in just a little bit, and we'll get right on into the deck profile. Starting us off with the Marincess monsters, we have 3 copies of our best 1-card starter, Marincess Blue Tang. So on summon, she Foolish Burials a Marincess monster from the deck to the graveyard, and whenever she is used as link material for the link summon of a I believe Marincess link monster, or just when used for link material, you can look at the top 3 cards, or you excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can add 1 revealed Marincess monster from your deck or from the revealed cards to your hand, shuffle the rest into the deck. So yes, this can whiff, because we're not on a lot of in-engine cards, but Blue Tang is 1-card full combo, and that's all you really gotta know. Next, we're on 3 copies of Marincess Seahorse. The Seahorse has the effect that you can special summon it from your hand to a zone a link monster points to. And then during the turn after it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to special summon a water monster from your hand to a zone that your link monster points to. Next, we're on 3 copies of Piscalis. Both of these are 1-card full combo, and then Piscalis is a way to insulate or not insulate, but an extra piece that can be combo with any other Marincess monster. So Piscalis is half of a 2-card combo, whereas both Seahorse and Mandarin are 1-card combos. Piscalis on normal or special summons another one from your hand, and then you can banish it to target a Marincess spell trap in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. Next, I'm on 2 copies of Marincess Spring Girl. I originally was playing 3, but I went down to 2, just simply because the deck doesn't need 3 of it, and it's a very niche extender. You can special summon it from your hand by banishing a Marincess monster from your graveyard, and then whenever it's used as link material, you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard up to the number of Marincess monsters you control, and then you inflict 200 burn damage for each Marincess card sent to the graveyard by this effect. Next, we're on our 2 one-ofs, next we're on to Sleepy Maiden, which is a one-of that I originally was playing 2. Cut it down to 1 because, again, you don't really need it. It's just an extender. You can target a Marincess card you control, special summon this, and then that card is unaffected by card effects while Sleepy Maiden is on the board. And then Sleepy Maiden also has a graveyard effect to banish itself to target a link monster you control and equip it with a link monster in your graveyard. Then we're on 1 copy of Marincess Mandarin, because you don't really need more than 1 Mandarin, and it's something that you're really only going to use once in a duel. So we're on Mandarin, and this is also technically part of a 1 to 2 card combo in the deck. So what does it do? Well, if it's in your hand or in your graveyard, you can while you control 2 or more Marincess monsters, you can target a link monster and summon it to a zone that link monster points to. Really good, and then it banishes itself whenever it leaves the field, and that's the only effect on it. And that is it for the Marincess monsters. Now we move on to their spells and traps. Hello, camera. Focus. Focus. Boop. There we go. Phone does not want to focus. So for the Marincess spell cards, we are on 3 copies of Marincess Dive. Marincess Dive has 2 different effects. The first effect is you can target a Marincess monster in your graveyard and special summon it from the graveyard. So it's an archetype monster reborn, but it's also an in-archetype E-Telly. Because if you have one of your, which I am running, 2 copies of Battle Ocean. If you have Battle Ocean in your field zone, you can special summon a Marincess monster from the deck. Just unexpected die Marincess monster. So if you open Battle Ocean plus Dive, that's 2 cards. That's a 2-card combo to get you into Blue Tang, and so on. And then finally, I'm on 2 copies of Marincess Wave, because in this deck specifically, if my phone would focus, hello, there we go. Marincess Wave. So in this deck specifically, Marincess Wave is better than Imperm, because if you control a Marincess Link monster, you can target a monster your opponent controls, negate its effects, and then if you control a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, you can special summon this from your hand. Your combo sets up a Link 4, so this is always live, and this card is not once per turn. Plus, it's recurable from the graveyard with Pascalis and one of the other extra deck monsters that we have. And that is going. Oh, and then Battle Ocean gives all of your Marincess monsters 200 attack, and then and then whenever a monster is summoned into the extra monster or link summoned into the extra monster zone, you can target 3 of your Marincess Link monsters in your or up to 3 that are in your graveyard, and equip them to the Link monster, and then Link monsters equipped with monsters gain 600 attack per card, and then anything summoned with Marincess Crystal Heart is a towers while the field spell is on the board. So the field spell does a lot, but it really doesn't feel like it does much in the long run. And that is 20, I believe 20 cards even, or 21 cards for in-engine. Now we move on to the generic spells that I'm on, which this is becoming a running theme for me. I'm on 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talents. This card is really good since most forms of interaction anymore are monster effects, whether it be hand traps or on field. Next, we're on 2 copies of Crossout Designator, because I always run 2 copies of Crossout, because in a format where everybody's on hand traps, Crossout is just extra copies of the one of Called by the Grave, which I think the more Called by the Grave you can have is just better. But that's also just me being weird. But you can always slot out Crossout for any hand traps or whatever, or extra copies of Talents, or if you have copies of Thrust, you can swap it out for Thrust, which Thrust isn't really that good right now, because what it searches doesn't really further anything. And then the last generic spell I'm on is 1 copy of 1-for-1, because being able to 1-for-1 out a Mandarin is really, really nice. Being able to set you up in the graveyard for something while also getting you a monster from the deck. But it also serves as like a 1.5 card, or it's like a 2, or it turns Seahorse into a 1.5 card combo for a little bit better of a board. And that's really all I'm going to get into on this, and that is going to be it for the generic the generic spell cards. Now I'm moving on to my hand trap lineup. Hand traps, I've got 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Ghost Bell to stop those pesky Fire Kings from moving stuff out of the graveyard, like Garunix and Ponix. However, you don't need to play Bell, you can play other cards in that slot. Then I'm on 3 copies of Droll, because Droll is really good into Fire King. And then I'm also on 3 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. And lastly, 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence. I know, it's a lot of hand traps, but you have the freedom to play this many hand traps. However, Bell is probably the easiest to cut out, and I would try and play 3 Cynet Mining. I don't own Cynet Mining, but I can always pick up a couple copies in the future, and then we can always update the deck again. And that is going to be it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. Starting us off, we have 2 copies of Marincess Coral Anemone, because Coral Anemone is part of your combo, and this card lets you do just about everything. So it can target a water monster in your graveyard and special summon it to the zone that it points to, and then not only that, it locks you into waters, which is part of a really important combo this deck can pull off with World Dragon Zelantis, where you lock yourself into waters, summon Zelantis effect, banish everything, and then only you get the monsters back from the exchange because you're locked into waters. So Coral Anemone helps support that, and Zelantis helps support, a lot of things. But not only does Coral Anemone give you a monster reborn on a body, it gives you the ability that whenever it's sent to the graveyard to target a Marincess card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So it adds any Marincess card, so you can always add back your 1-card combo for follow-up, or you can add back another copy of Wave, or you can add back a Dive, or you can add back the field spell. Next, we're on 2 copies of Marincess Coral Triangle. I like playing 2 Coral Triangle, but you can definitely get away with playing 1 of it. And what it does is you can send a water monster from your hand to the graveyard in order to search for a Marincess trap card. And then you can banish it from the graveyard to summon link monsters from your graveyard, where the total link rating is 3. But you have to have no monsters, and your opponent has to have a monster in order for you to be able to do that. So a very hard thing to pull off, but not impossible. Which is why I like playing 2 of it, because if you get to the point where banishing it from the graveyard is actually a play, then yeah, you get to banish it from the graveyard. Next, I'm on 2 copies of Marincess Blue Slug. Blue Slug on summon targets a water monster in the graveyard, and then you add it back to your hand. Simple as it gets. And then we're on 2 copies of Marincess Sea Angel. This one on summon adds a Marincess spell card from your deck to your hand, which is like Dive or Battle Ocean, because I believe those are the only 2 Marincess spell cards that exist. And then I'm on 2 copies of that all-important Crystal Heart. Crystal Heart, I don't really ever use its effects, and I don't think its effects ever come up. So if you want to read what Crystal Heart does, because I don't know what it does off the top of my head, feel free. I know you probably can't see the text because of how small it is, even on computer. So, yeah. I'm just going to leave it at that. And now we move on to the 1-ups in the extra deck. I am playing 1 copy of Marincess Marbled Rock. Marbled Rock can just, once per turn, target a Marincess in your graveyard, accept a copy of itself, and add it to your hand. And then you can only use that effect once per turn. And then when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can send 1 Marincess monster from your hand to the graveyard. For that battle, monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage. That's not really important. I use it as a way to recur a resource in order to help build us up into other things. However, one thing that it doesn't build me into is my 1 copy of Marincess Aqua Argonaut. I would say if you do cut out a Coral Triangle, I would replace it with another Argonaut, because sometimes that second Argonaut comes up, and would help you replace the one of Bubble Reef. However, I'm going to go over both of these cards really quick. Argonaut is a spell trap negate by summoning one of the equipped monsters. That's about as much as I know. And then Bubble Reef is what originally was the towers that you were always making every turn. Now it's Argonaut because having a towers that's a spell trap negate by summoning one of the cards it's equipped with is pretty good. It doesn't negate and destroy, which is unfortunate in the case of being able to like negate um, Fire King Island, but being able to stop the effect of the continuous spell that Fire King has from getting them island is nice. And then Bubble Reef um, says once per turn during either player or during the standby phase, either player standby phase, you can banish a Marincess from your it's either a Marincess or a water monster specifically from the graveyard in order to draw a card, and then whenever one is banished, it gains 600 attack for each banished water monster you control, and that's all it is. Next, we're on to the big boy himself, the one of the two generic slots here in the extra deck, being World Dragon Zealantis. World Dragon Zealantis has a quick effect to banish all monsters on the board, and then you special summon them back out however you want, wherever you want. So it's just a good way to rearrange your board, and it helps you clear up your extra monster zone if your Argonaut survives your opponent's turn. But it helps you um, clear out your extra monster zone in order to summon a new towers or summon whatever you want out, but it also gives you more zones to use for your Marincess effects that are in the graveyard. And then I'm on one copy of Splash Mage to round out the extra deck to help you link climb even further. So with that, we're going to move on to the side deck. Starting us off here in the side deck, we have one copy of Marincess Wave. I am playing that third copy of Wave here in the side deck just because, like I said, I feel like Wave has a little more value to it than Imperm in this deck, and being able to see it as a non-once per turn, you can activate it from the hand for having your boss monster is pretty nice. I also have 3 copies of Effect Veiler, 3 copies of DD Crow in the side deck as extra hand traps. Crow is also for the Fire King matchup. Being able to get the Ponix out of the graveyard or getting their big Gabrunix out of the graveyard is really nice. Or if they destroy a Kieran, being able to banish out of the graveyard whatever they're targeting with Kieran is really, really nice. Crow and Bell both hurt Fire King really, really bad. And I think Bell is a little bit better than Crow, but Crow has a little bit more utility in not just stopping Fire King, but the same can be said about Ghost Bell. Then into the spells that are here, Then into the generic spells that are over here in the side deck, we have that third copy of Triple Tactics Talent. I like playing 3 talent between my main and side, and a lot of times I go with 2 in the main and 1 in the side, but you can always go 2 in the side, 1 in the main if you really felt like it. Then I'm on 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More to help us play through combo, because, if combo exists, it loses to Dark Ruler. Well, not always, but it kind of loses to Dark Ruler. Then I'm on 3 copies of Evenly Matched because Evenly Matched Dark Ruler really hurts combo. And then finally, to round out the side deck is that last copy of Imperm. If you feel like you need the Impermanence because you're drawing Wave when you need Imperm, you can always side out a copy of Wave for the third Imperm. And that is it for the deck profile. Let me pause my recording and I will be right back with y'all yet again. And with that, guys, that's gonna be my Marincess deck profile. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, you can always play Signet Mining, and there are a few hand trap tweaks you can make here and there, but I'm making this deck to try and beat Fire King as consistently as possible, while also staying consistent, and the list, in my opinion, is very consistent. I've tested it off camera through, shuffling up, drawing 5, and testing One in every five is a brick, which, 80% isn't bad. But I feel like I brick less often than, one in five. It's probably more along the lines of like one in eight is a brick, but one in five is just an easier calculation to make. But one in eight is a better number. And if you guys want to test this out, I feel like this deck is fairly cheap still. And with the Megaton reprints that the deck got, where it bumped down the rarities, building the deck should definitely be easy. And with that, I will see everybody in the next one. Oh, wait, actually, one last thing before I leave. We are really close to 200 subscribers, so if you guys could share this video around, or maybe share some of my other videos around, uh, hit the subscribe button. Check to see if your subscribe button actually says subscribed or not. Um, because I know YouTube does this thing where it unsubscribes people. And I've been so close to 200 for a good little while. So, again, now that I got that all out of the way, I'll see everybody in the next video. Let me know if you want test hands, and peace.